Welcome to Journey Church. Our church exists to help people find God, experience freedom, discover their purpose, and make a difference. If you have any questions about Journey Church, please visit us at ourjourney.tv. Now, here is Pastor John Richards.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you so much, Frank, for that. I appreciate that, and I am so happy to know that WayFN comes in for you. I can never get it anywhere in Hopkinsville, so praise God you got that, because I got to go to Sirius XM if I want Christian music half the time. So thank you for that. So we are continuing our study this week on Thanksliving, and I'm talking today on being thankful for His church, for God's church. And that's something that's very, very near and dear to my heart, and I'll say a quick words about that. Why? Is because I left the church for a while. A lot of people don't know that. When I was in college, I started dating my amazing, beautiful wife, who's working with the kids in the back right now, because praise God, we need people working with those kids, because honestly, they're more fun than we are. Just true story. We are so blessed to have Pastor Crystal and Pastor Will back there working with the kindergartners right now. They're having a blast right time. I wonder if they're pulling on his beard. That could be cool. But I'm so excited about that. But a lot of people didn't realize I left the church for a while. I left the church for 3 full years of my life. And the reason that is because I had this core group of Christian friends who were very deep and very spiritual. I say spiritual in quotes because they weren't really. They were just normal teenagers. And they did not like that I decided to date somebody who was unchristian. I had a clear divine saying from God saying, you're going to marry this girl, she's going to get saved. Actually, it was reversed. She's going to get saved and you're going to marry this girl, talking about my wife. Because when I met my wife, she was not Christian yet. She was a firecracker all the way around. She had a lot of things to say. I'm getting a bad echo. I'm still coming through. I don't know if it's bad out there. I can deal with it. But she was a firecracker through and through, and but I had a revelation on our first date, and God, that weekend before, we had a date on Memorial Day. Yeah, because Labor Day is the last one, Memorial Day is the first one. I always get those backwards. On Memorial Day was our first date, and on Memorial Day, that whole weekend before, I heard God say, she's the one. She's the one. And I told her on my first date, walking the river walk in Clarksville, because it's so romantic that, really it is. We didn't have it's nice. I like it. But on the river walk, I looked at her and says, hey, you don't know this. I'm going to marry you, and you're going to know Jesus. And she goes, shut up, Christian boy. It's amazing the nicknames your wife comes up for you. I'm just saying. So, but... and I started dating her. Well, I started dating her, and I left for a mission trip 4 days later. I did 8 weeks of missions across Kentucky, working with a group called Kentucky Changers at the time. And what they do is they go in and work on home projects and things like that, which is ironic because I am horrible at construction. So whatever. But so I went on this mission trip, and I had these very close friends who were on the team with me. And I told them what God had told me. And I said, and she's the one. She's phenomenal. And throughout the entire summer, and then when I returned to school in the fall, I went from a large group of friends, thank you, Cody, a large group of friends to 0. Everybody dropped me because I refused to not date someone who wasn't Christian. And I'm not saying I'm an advocate for dating people who are not Christian, but if you have a firm understanding of what God is telling you, talk to accounts, talk to people, get authority in your life, and say, what is God saying about this? And move forward with the plan of God. We weren't doing anything immoral, we weren't doing anything wrong until the church left me. And I say the church left me as I went from being the kid everybody talked to, the kid everybody hung out with, the college student who was at church coffee houses every single night, to being the guy that was all alone. So I left the church. And it took my, at the time, atheist wife to look at me and say, you're going back to church because I don't like who you are. I don't like this mean person you are without the church. So we ended up going back to church in Bowling Green, and we ended up getting plugged into what's a small group. We call small groups here. It was a small group there. And I discovered that I liked church and I liked Jesus a whole lot. And my wife discovered at the same place, she likes church, she likes Jesus a whole lot. And we've just been rolling straight through since then. Praise God. But that's why I am thankful for the church, because I realize what it is not to have it. So it's ironic to be standing before you, because I had to think of a lot of different stuff, a lot of different things. And one of the things is, for many of you guys don't realize this, as humans who make up the church, we are not perfect. I know, we're not perfect. We do a lot of mistakes. We do a lot of things that are wrong. We do a lot of things that are perceived as wrong because of we're not with one political party, we're not with the other political party, what. But a lot of our weaknesses, a lot of the things that happen in our church are because of what's happening on the inside of the church. So often we see different stuff and different aspects of the weaknesses that come through the church walls that are seen by the people outside is because of the weakness in the foundation inside isn't built. Pastor Will has been an amazing friend to me those last 2 years, I guess. I've been here almost 2 years. And I have learned a lot, but I can honestly say in the last 2 weeks, I've not learned as much from Will as I have than he's been in my house working on my bathroom. Because every little detail, every minute thing he is measuring and layering and doing everything he needs to do. But then he has the heart to look at me, an idiot when it comes with tools, and going, this is why you do it this way. This is why you do it this way. And so many issues we have in the church are because leaders in those bodies do not take the time to point out those details. And I am thankful to live in a church, to be a part of a church right now where Pastor Vince points out those details to make sure you're doing it right. And if you notice, I don't have PowerPoint going on right now. I don't have a screen behind me right now. And apparently Jared thought we were going old school too, because we hit up the 1990s, and that's where I felt like God was leading me that way as well. I mean, third day, really? Come on, 1990s. Dude, I'm rocking my WWJD bracelet and everything right now. So, but we are so, as a tech guy, I get so caught up in technology. And I needed to step away. And God said, step away. Talk to you guys and just love on you guys, because a lot of the things I cover up, my weaknesses in the church, I cover with technology. I can make something look big, pretty, and flashy. And a lot of times I use the big, pretty, and flashy I can make to cover up the weaknesses I have. Right. So right now I'm standing before you with a guy with notes on sheets of paper as I'm going through everything, because I'm not perfect. And if you read Colossians 3:13 with me, this is from the Passion Translation, which, side note, if you guys have not ever heard of the Passion Translation, it's in the Bible app you have in front of you right now. It's a great translation. Pastor Vince's pastor, Kemp Holden, turned me on to it in May, and I fell in love with the translation. It breaks it down similar to what the Message does. It breaks it down, but doesn't break it down as far. It still has the meat, but it has a lot of the Passion Translation. So this is Colossians 3:13. If you guys want to read with me. Tolerate the weaknesses of those in the family of faith, forgiving one another in the same way you have been graciously forgiven by Jesus Christ. If you find fault with someone, release the same gift of forgiveness to them. So that's Colossians 3:13. So I was reading this translation. I've read it in different translations, but the phrase stood out to me, family of faith. Don't let the weaknesses of the family of faith affect you, right? So tolerate the weaknesses of those in the family of faith. Tolerate the weaknesses of those in the family of faith. Who is the family of faith? Church, right? So here's this thing also. It's you. How often do we take the phrase family of faith and we think it's not talking about us, it's talking about everybody else? Tolerate the weaknesses of the family of faith. It's everyone. You are part of the family of faith. Your weaknesses show up just as much as anyone else's weaknesses. My weaknesses show up just as much as everyone else's. My inability to spell check shows up all the time when I send Carrie an email. Our weaknesses as the family of faith shows up, and it's not just everyone else, it's you. And that's a profound statement to me. Because after coming off an amazing weekend of community growth and building, it's ironic to think about my weaknesses and my blemishes. In a family, which we are, we call ourselves the church family. We even call our church family online, our online church family. For you guys joining us online, thank you so much, online church family, for being with us. Right. Because you are family. Right. You're 100% family. And our family, we have to put up with a whole lot. You just can't throw them away. I tried. They don't fit. Hey. Not you. Right? You just can't throw them away. Honestly, my wife would throw me away in a heartbeat if she was able to. Amen. I just keep coming back. You can't throw away family. You got to stick family out. Family is hard. I would love to say family is hard. My favorite movies in the world are the Thanksgiving and Christmas movies where the family explodes. Christmas Vacation makes my family feel normal. And then I realize we're not. But it's cool. It's okay. So, but you can't put family away. You have to put yourself in front of family. I'm sorry. You have to put yourself behind family. That didn't make any sense. You have to lift those family members up. If your wife's having a rough day, you lift her up. Right. If your son's having a bad day because people made fun of his hair, you got to lift him up. I have 4 children. I have a 19-year-old, 13-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 6-year-old. And my 6-year-old is an amazing young man who's built like the refrigerator Perry. I'm not kidding. He's built like the refrigerator Perry. I'm signing. Scouts are coming to me already. He's 6, so it works out. But he is a handful. He's also autistic. And I say he's autistic and a handful because he's autistic and a handful. But I have to realize I have to put his needs in front of my needs. I would love to say we've gone out to dinner a lot of times where we've gone to nice fancy restaurants and we could sit down as a family and enjoyed a nice meal. We can't do all those things that much. Because if he has hit his limit, he's at his limit. And it's not worth the fight or the aggression towards him or the anger towards him that a nice meal equals. I have been so blessed to learn so much about myself and about my God and about my family through watching my 6-year-old. And I truly, honestly say that. And he has my personality, he has my wife's personality, Crystal, all rolled up into one, and praise Jesus, that's scary. So, but as family, I have to set his needs in front of my needs. Parents have to do that every single day. I mean, honestly, how often do you guys like eating chicken nuggets at McDonald's? Right? Besides Cody. That's a whole other issue. So, I mean, how often do you guys like having chicken nuggets or macaroni and cheese out of the box where it looks like a Ninja Turtle? It doesn't make it taste any better. It's still powdered milk. It's still not good, right? It's still, there are sacrifices you do for family. There are sacrifices you do for church family. We're a family. And so often we forget that. We bicker, we fight, we do things, we irritate people, we poke people, we yell at people, all in the name of Jesus. Pastor Vince, we didn't like what you had to say last week, but Jesus, he had other words for you. Not that you weren't praying for that entire thing for the last week and a half about what your message should be, asking Jesus what to give you. I had the greatest analogy last night at a dinner. And the analogy was this. The speaker at the Beast Feast last night at Concord Baptist Church, shout out to Concord, thank you so much for having us. There was about 22 from Journey last night there, and it was an amazing blessing. But last night, the speaker at Concord pulled up his arm, and he has a little Greek word for grace on his arm. He has tattooed, and it reminds him of his wife because of situations they had in their family. But he pulled up his arm, and he had this little old lady come up in her walker and talk to us. You know what the Bible says about tattoos, right? And he goes, I do. And he goes, you know what the Bible says about putting holes in your ear for those big earrings? It says that. Same passage. Right? And so often we get this situation where we say we hear from God and he's telling us what to do, but the leadership is wrong. And I will tell you this 100%. I have never seen God lead a leadership team and lead them the wrong way. God doesn't lead the wrong way. He leads his way and the right way. If the leadership of any church, this church, the church in general, or the church as a whole world, if they are following God 100%, leadership is on the right track. And so often as family, we have to realize we have to put ourselves forward. And I love that about our staff. Our staff is amazing at lifting other people up. Pastor Vince, he loves to leave little cards places just saying thank you. And Crystal and I like to leave little gifts and little words of encouragement for people and do things for people. We like to love people. And if you've been around Pastor Will at all, he's probably bought you lunch. Food is his love offering. So good. But so often we do things, and we do things out of lifting people up. God blesses us. God blesses those who lift others first before thinking of themselves. God blesses those who lift others first. As an adult male in the American society, that is incredibly hard for me to say. Because I have been taught, I have been shown by secular leadership, by secular words, that I am first and everyone is second. And in truth, God is first, everyone is the second, and I am last. And that has been a hard thing to grasp. Because so many conversations, so many different things point the opposite direction. And in reality, we are last. I am last. If I have to go without food because my family needs food, I go without food. If I have to go without a cell phone charger because my kid needs a cell phone charger, I'm going to lose a cell phone charger. Happens every night. So if you look at Proverbs 11:25, those who live to bless others will have blessings heaped upon them, and the one who pours out his life to pour out blessings will be saturated with favor. Those who live to bless others will have blessings heaped upon them. Heaped upon them. What does the word heaped mean? Heaped means a whole lot thrown on you. So I have been very blessed this last weekend. And I say I've been very blessed because I have had the ability to sit at the feet of Dr. Charles Green and record his messages at Family Worship on Friday night and Saturday morning-ish, afternoon-ish. And I have learned a whole lot from him, and I've been blessed for that. I was blessed to sit at the feet of Pastor Will and the people running Men's Fight Club yesterday. And then I was blessed to sit at the feet of Pastor David at Concord last night. I've had a whole lot of church this whole weekend. And I've had a blessing the entire time. And I realized something about what church family looks like. And I never thought of it this way. And this is what church family looks like. It's going to be monumental. Looks like hatchet. I say it looks like a hatchet because this is my hatchet. What does NRA stand for? Thank you. I had no clue. I had no clue. So last night at Concord, the Beast Feast, they had drawings and everybody won free. They gave away free things. So, in my family, this is our saying. I think we're going to get to put it on t-shirts or Christmas sweaters or something. And our saying is, we always win something, but it's never anything good. Every one of us won. I won a hatchet. Anara won a gun scope. Sanaya won a pocket knife and a ball cap. Crystal won a flashlight. So we all won. But I didn't realize what I was winning. And what I won was community. I have a hatchet of community. Because honestly, if you know me at all, my idea of being out in the woods is staying in a hotel. That's below 3 stars. I check those star ratings. That is my idea of being outside. I took my son last year to the men's and boys camp out trip at Family Worship Center. And I hated it so much, I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning and drove to Starbucks. True story. I told my son I was going to check on my wife. And everyone I've told I've received this hatchet from has been, you got a hatchet? What are you going to do with that? I don't really know. Jerry said I could throw it at a tree, and then I'll miss it and it'll hit the river, and it'll be gone. That's what community is. It is being there and loving on people. I was at the Beast Feast because I was so excited about this. They had frog legs, they had fish, they had quail, they had duck, they had bear, they had snake. I think they had snake. They may have had snake. And I was so blessed because the time I got up through the line, all that was gone. I got meatloaf and a little bit of macaroni and cheese, and I was set. God took care of me yesterday. Right? But that's what happens is so often is as community, as a church, we have to step out and we have to go where those people are. Right? My entire family, when they ask the question, how many of you guys are hunters? Everybody hunters raise their hands. How many of you guys are fishers? Fishermen raise their hands. How many of you guys like to do both? And they raise their hand. How many of you guys like to do none of that? My whole family raised their hands up. And Will is standing there just laughing at me, and I go, Will, I came for you, buddy. I came for you. But because of community, we do things for community. We do things for other people. Is because there are rewards for blessing those around you. Concord Baptist Church was blessed because Journey Church showed up. There's about 22, 23 of us who came last night, and we had a great time. They fed us, and we had an amazing night of worship. We stepped out as a church and as a group and said, we're going to go do this. We did the same thing for family worship. God blesses our church when we step out as a church to help other churches. And that is completely 100% a factual statement. And I say that because Pastor Vince told me that's true. No, God is all about blessing the church when it blesses the church. I came home Friday afternoon, and I have been praying about my sermon and working on my sermon all week long. And I pull up in the driveway, and there's this strange black truck in my driveway. And I know whose it was because Pastor Will's been working on my truck. But Will always has people coming and going for different stuff because he's a socialite. And it was Josh Hudson. Josh was in my house. And I realized it was his truck when I saw the license plate. And I looked at my wife and I went, Josh is here. And I flew up on my door and slammed it and ran in the house like a little, put my rings and everything. Because Josh gives the best hugs. It's like a free chiropractor. And I just love to be around his community. And I thank you for being here. And I truly say that with honor. I've known you for a little over a year of talking and communicating, and I have been blessed every time I see you. And I thank you for pouring into me like that. And there are rewards for blessing your family members. Here's my point. This is 2 Corinthians 9:6, and this is Paul writing to the Corinthian church. 2 Corinthians 9:6. Here's my point. A stingy sower will reap a meager harvest, but the one who sows for a great or gracious spirit will reap an abundant harvest. I kind of had to think of the last couple weeks and the last month in October for the relational vampires of what that harvest is. And last week, as I was sick at home, I figured out what that harvest was. And it's my church family. Pastor Vince said this last week, and it hit me hard. It's not happy people that are grateful, it's grateful people that are happy. And I realized I wasn't always grateful for my church family through my entire life. And last week I was sad because I didn't see my church family. And happy people are grateful, or not happy people, I can't read all of a sudden. It's not happy people that are grateful, it's grateful people that are happy. But I need to tell you guys something a little deeper, and that is helping the church comes at a cost. It comes at a cost. There's a cost. It could be time, it could be resources, it could be money, it could be all the above. Helping the church comes at a cost. And then I read a quote by a 14-year-old girl, and she wrote this: "No one has ever become poor by giving." And that's Anne Frank. Struggling through the Holocaust, struggling from hiding with her family in their shop. And she came up with the quote, "No one has ever become poor by giving." And I feel that with the church. But there are a few things we have to really pay attention to. And one of those things is the cost you experience with helping the church can lead you to burnout. And I say, why? And you guys say, why burnout? What's burnout? And burnout is when you are just done. You just can't do anymore. You don't feel like you have anything left. And the reason for burnout is this: the family chores aren't being divided up properly. I live in a house with 7 people. And I realize that when one person does the chores all by themselves for an entire week, that person is angry and bitter and ready to use a hatchet. And it's the same way at a church. When you rely on a staff member, or you rely on your pastor or a lay person or a volunteer to do every single job in the church, they become bitter and they become angry and they become hurt because the church is not stepping up to do what they're supposed to be doing. We're family. How many of you guys have chore charts in your house with kids? Chore charts? We have a chore chart. Everybody has a magnet of what they're supposed to be doing that day. Chore charts. Church family is no different. And I really feel like we have to look at this not just as a family, but also, say, a championship team. I like football. I love basketball. But if you watch football in the last 25 years, it feels like the last millennium, is the only thing that ever wins is a guy named Tom Brady. Front runner. But the only person who ever wins is a guy named Tom Brady. The issue is Tom Brady's never been the greatest quarterback. He's never had the best arm. He's never had the best receiver. He's never had the best anything. They've been all these parts working together to win. They've been a good defense, a good offense, a good special teams to win a game. They've worked together. That's the way a church works. Church doesn't have has to have the most dynamic pastor, the best presence online, the best kids ministry. But if everything is good, everything is working the same path, the same DNA, the same direction, it's amazing what God's going to do. But the issue is one set of people can't be responsible for all of that. So often we have so many different people who are wearing multiple hats. We have people who are doing 4 jobs instead of focusing on that one job they're passionate about. Because the chores aren't divided evenly. You can't expect perfection from your church family if you're not holding yourself to that same microscope. So often I've been in churches where someone will say, "I just don't like how that singer sounds." Fix it, you sing. "I don't like how that kids ministry looks. It's just not very appealing to me." Fix it, you do it. That's the thing. is we have so many people who are willing to stand up there and hold every little thing the church does at a microscope. But they're not holding themselves to the same microscope. And I think that is a danger to the church in America. We have put our entire country under a microscope. Everything our president says, everything any political figure says or does is watched by 5 billion people on Twitter. And the church is no different. We hold ourselves to such a high standard that the church cannot meet those standards because people aren't holding themselves to the same standards. Proverbs 11:1, to set high standards for someone else and then not live up to them yourself is something that God truly hates, but it pleases him when we apply the right standards of measurement. That's Proverbs 11:1. God hates it when we hold people up to expectations and measurements that we're not holding ourselves up to. Working for Pastor Vince has been an eye-opening experience because he's the first pastor I've ever worked with that has had such a high level of expectations on me. And the reason he has a high expectation level on me is because he has the same thing for himself. 100%. He does not expect from me anything he doesn't expect from himself. He doesn't expect from Jared anything else he doesn't expect from himself or will. Because he holds the same standards for himself. As a father, I expect high expectations for my kids because I hold myself to those same standards. My question is, church, are you doing that? Are you setting yourself up expectations where you have greater expectations for the church than you have for yourself? We have a lot of things happening soon. And a lot of times, a lot of people think about the concept, I can't do it, I'm not perfect, I'm too young of a Christian. No one is. No one is. And God uses imperfect people every single day. Every single weekend, every single day, God uses imperfect people. Kanye West, you're not perfect, but you're not your mistakes. Last weekend, 3,000 people were saved at a Kanye West concert. Which is crazy to say those words. But Jesus is using Kanye West because the church has not stepped up where it needed to step up. He's reaching a demographic of urban demographic that is stronger and living out more and finding out more. I mean, think about it, people. The number 2 album in the world right now is a Christian album. Called Jesus is King. Jimmy Fallon's talking about Jesus is King. That's amazing. And the church is no different. And I think about that in the sense of, I see a change. I see a shift. I see what God is doing, and I just want to make sure I'm on board. I don't want to be somebody watching the wave go. I want to be at the top of the wave saying, God, just hold on. Please don't let me fall off, because that hurt. And I see the shift. And the reason I see the shift is because I was having a conversation with my 7-year-old mother, who's an amazing woman. She's an amazing woman of God, and she goes to a great church at Henderson Memorial. And she said, we were talking in Sunday school the other day. And I had to think, what Sunday school? Because I forgot what that was like. And then I said, 9? That's early. But we were talking about, she said, and we were talking about Kanye West. And I go, okay. I have no idea where this is going right now in my head. But she's like, and we were just praying for him and lifting him up because we realize as a church, we can't attack the church. A class of people at Henderson Memorial of old white ladies praying for Kanye West. That doesn't make any sense in my head. If you would have said 6 months ago, this is what God was doing, I was like, but that's where God went. That's where he's going. When we have a class of older white women in the middle of Hopkinsville, Kentucky, when my mom is the youngest one at 70, praying for Kanye West, God's got something going. That's amazing to me. So what's next? What's next for you? And everybody's got a what next issue. I didn't limit it to just one person. I did everything. So If you are not plugged in at Journey Church, if you are not doing something at the church, this is for you. This first point is for you. And this is it. Find the need you can fill at Journey Church. Find the need you can fill at Journey Church. Not your wife can fill, not your son can fill. Find the need you can fill. There is a need for every single person in this church, or you wouldn't be sitting here. What need can you fill? Find that need. So that's the first step. The second step, if you're already working in Journey Church a little bit, or you're working a lot, find the need you can fill in the community. We cannot be a church afraid to be outside of our doors. Those churches are closing. Those churches are disappearing. We have to be a church that is willing to serve our community and help our community. If we are not helping our community and serving our community, then we are failing as a church. You really want me to say it? I was really confused by that. It's like, was that an order? But we have to find the place in our community that we can fill it. That's right. And that may be you, it may be you by yourself, it may be you as a group. I learned a lot in the last 6 months from Molly. If you guys don't know Molly, Molly's very quiet. She's very reserved. She's an introvert, but she is a doer. And I say she's a doer because she said, hey, John, I think you have a great idea. You have a lot of good ideas. You could be on the Human Rights Commission for the city. I was like, what is that? And she went over and I was like, cool, I'll apply for that. I didn't realize how much work it is. Molly, it's a lot of work. But I'm able to work with Molly and other people like-minded in our community about changing our community. Because that's important. If I'm not willing to step out in faith to change my community, I shouldn't even, what's the point of being in my community? If I can't talk to my barista and find out their name and what they're doing, what's the point of going to Starbucks? I learned that from Will. If you look at Pastor Will, talk to Pastor Will, he knows every single person in the world. He knows every single person who goes in there. I don't know how he walks through Walmart without stopping 1 billion times. That's him. You go out to lunch with him, he knows somebody. He's talking to somebody. You go to Lowe's, people at Lowe's ask him where something is. You have to be in your community to change your community. And finally, if you're in your community, how are you being thankful for God's church? What are you doing to glorify God's church? And I'm not just saying God's church in the sense of Journey Church. I'm saying the sense of God's church. What are you doing, big or small, to lift up the other churches in our community? There are so many churches out there that do a lot of great things that we don't talk about. In the past 40 or 50 years, every church has their own message, and every church doesn't share the other church's message because we're afraid of stealing sheep. You know what I've learned at being on staff at a lot of churches? Churches don't steal sheep. Sheep just wander. Churches don't steal sheep. They just wander. They could wander for the music. They could wander for the pastor. They could wander for the kids' ministry. It has nothing to do with stealing sheep. We need to get out of the mindset of somebody's going to steal people from Journey Church. We need to get in the mindset of what can we do as Journey Church to push that church forward. And it's the small things. It is the small things in life that allow us to move forward. We can move forward and lift those people up. Because every church has a mission. Every church has a goal. Every church has something God is doing through them. And most of the time it's completely different. Every time it's completely different. God is not going to put two churches in the same block to do the same thing unless they're working together. And that's what we have to take as a church, is we have to be that group of people, that organization that steps out and goes, I am here for Jesus. I'm not here for my denomination. I'm not here for my non-denominational. I am here because Jesus says be here. And that's who we need to be. We need to be a church of people who are where God puts us because he put us there and we didn't put ourselves there.
Thank you for being with us online. Our desire is to journey with you however you want to connect with us. We look forward to doing life with you. Now, let's go this week and be the church in our community as we focus on loving God and loving others. For more information about our church, visit us at ourjourney.tv. See you next week.